The new Democratic governor, so the elections, remember, always in the odd year. At the state level, then they take office in the even year. The new governor, John Walter Smith, you don't need his name, I don't think. The new Baltimore mayor, Thomas Hayes, you don't need his name, I don't think, but you do need to give a little respect to the mustache. So at the statewide level, here's the 1899 election. County by county, redder, the more Republican. Oh, sorry, I had it backwards. This is the 1895 election, back when the Republicans won statewide office, and this is 1899. So let's check that again. 1895, then 4 years of scaring people about black equality, and the Democrats are back. The percent voting Democratic had gone from 44% to 51%. So that's 7% of Marylanders who swung. In 1902, one of those Republican senators' terms was up, and the new Democratic Maryland legislature sent Arthur Pugh Gorman back to the U.S. Senate. Even before heading back to the Senate, his term beginning in 1903, Gorman was leading the effort in Maryland to disfranchise black Marylanders, to do in Maryland the same kinds of things that all those states further south were doing. Gorman led the effort to get disfranchisement and white supremacy written into the Maryland Democrats' party platform. The new Democratic Party platform said the political destinies of Maryland should be shaped and controlled by the white people of the state. So in this cartoon, which is from a newspaper in Minnesota, the kind of place where they might hate Gorman, Gorman is headed back to the Senate, hoping that takes him to the White House, doing it on a platform of disfranchising black men in the South. After the Democrats retook statewide office, in what when looking at it seems like such a coordinated campaign, the Democrats now played up even harder on the ideas about black crime, and that there were no good statistics on black crime. And with the lack of good statistics, they just made things up. The Baltimore Sun, which had turned strongly white supremacist in recent years, helped the Democrats make up white supremacist lies. One that became common in the press and among Democratic politicians was to say that Negroes made up 20% of the population and commit more than 50% of the murders. And there was no statistical basis for that. I've seen it all over the place, in speeches, in newspaper articles, and it apparently started with the Baltimore Sun just saying it, and then it gets picked up and tossed around and carried around and cited as fact. Nobody's got any statistics. They're just making it up. The new phrase that just surged in popularity in the press and in speeches was Negro rowdyism. Negro rowdyism, which I find particularly revealing. What does it mean to be rowdy? To be like boisterous, right? And a little out of control, a little too loud, a little too exuberant. And what I think this is really pointing at is that when the Republicans took statewide office, I think that a lot of black Marylanders really did walk around more exuberantly, more confidently, feeling a little bit more hopeful that the law in Maryland might protect them, might treat them fairly. And I think that the majority of white Marylanders, they could see that. And they didn't like it. They could see that black people were a little more hopeful about Maryland and their place in it. And that comes through as Negro rowdyism and Negro rule. Negro rule. Shall the Negro rule? Now remember, black people hold no statewide political office anywhere in Maryland. So this is really just about, can a party govern Maryland if it's the party that black people support? Even if, a quarter of the white people support it too. Negro rowdyism. Negro rowdyism. Do the people of Maryland and the South want the bottom rail on top? Do they want the Negro or the white man to rule? And then, listen to this. Is it the policy of the Republican Party, from president down, to break down social barriers between the races and promote not only mixed schools, but marriages between the races? It looks so. And always this kind of stuff. The Negro race has none of the qualifications of self-government. They lack self-control, and there are among them so large a proportion who are criminal and disorderly that they must be kept in control with a firm hand. Excuse me. So, they're criminals, and it's going to lead to mixed marriages. This was the same lines of rhetorical argument that worked across so much of the rest of the South. And so Gorman wanted to disfranchise black Marylanders. Put another way, Gorman wanted to make sure that the Democratic Party never lost another election in Maryland again. So the Democrats, having denied black people any good education in the state of Maryland, at this point, at the turn of the 20th century, the state usually spent 4 times as much to educate a white student as to educate a black student. There was no black high school in any county in the state. The only black high school was in Baltimore. The black public schools that existed were usually former white schools that had been declared too run down to be used as schools. And then they turned it into the black school. This was purposeful. It was systematic. And it meant that because of the denial of opportunity, in 1900, the black illiteracy rate was somewhere around 45% in Maryland. It was lower in Baltimore, about 30%. The white illiteracy rate was 8%. Having created this systematic effort to deny black people education, the Democrats now said that the fact that black people were uneducated meant that they should be banned from voting. They were too easy to manipulate. Gorman. And I put these two things on the same slide, the Maryland Democratic platform with disfranchisement, along with that picture of the Brotherhood of Liberty. And these are the kind of black people that Gorman really wants to stop. And I keep personifying this about Gorman. It's not just about Gorman, right? It's what the majority of white Marylanders kind of want. To get black people out of politics, so that they can't use politics to ever rise out of being second-class citizens. With all this Negro rowdyism talk, the Democrats passed a law that took symbols off the ballots. Remember when we've looked at earlier ballots, they usually have a picture on it that identifies, that associates with each party, right? So if you're voting Republican, there's a little picture of Lincoln. Well, they said that that made it too easy for illiterate people to vote. And so passed a law that said, okay, can't have images on the ballot. Sorry, illiterate people. And if you're illiterate, you can't ask anyone for help. Then, in 1903, new round of statewide elections, the Democrats win again, having relentlessly played up these racial fears. And Governor Edwin Warfield becomes the new Maryland governor after the 1903 elections. And Warfield, this is a Warfield speech here, where he says, I agree, and here he's agreeing with this Democratic Party platform. The political destinies of Maryland should be shaped and controlled by the white people of the state. And I appeal to all citizens for their active support for the supremacy of the white race, for the cause of civilization and good government. He says, the question is whether the Maryland is to be trusted to a party more than one half of whose voters is composed of this ignorant race, or the party comprised in its ranks a vast majority of our white people. He exaggerates there the part of the Republican Party that is black voters, to try to make it seem like the party's controlled by its black voters. And then the Democratic Party platform says, okay, we political destiny, white people, and we disclaim any purpose to do any injustice whatsoever to our colored population. But we do declare, without reserve, our resolute purpose to preserve in every conservative and constitutional way the political ascendance of our race. Okay, so it's like, black people, look, we really, really like you. We just want to make sure you stay in a second-class position for all time, okay? So if you don't mind, we're just going to go ahead and try to get busy with that. And they did. In 1904, the Maryland Democratic General Assembly passed the Curbin Act, which required segregation on all railroads and steamships operating in the state of Maryland. Now you'll remember that most companies did this anyway, but this made it clear that it was a statewide legal requirement. The Brotherhood of Liberty and parts of the black press organized boycotts, urging black people to skip their summer trips and not travel on the steamboats or railroad lines. It was clear that at least early on, some of the railroad lines really did take an economic hit, but not so much that they started pressing the state government to get rid of the Curbin Act. Meanwhile, Gorman was cooking up a plan to disfranchise black Marylanders.